Karen's meticulously crafted exoskeleton armor could enhance the combat effectiveness of every member of Zhang Yi's team, especially for Fatty Su and Uncle Yu. Theoretically, Fatty Su's innate potential was higher than that of Uncle Yu. However, due to his personality, Zhang Yi had only assessed his ability index at 8,000 points. Yet, if he could overcome his timidity and unleash his full potential, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin's analysis suggested he could even reach a 9,000-point level. That's merely a theoretical possibility. I don't believe that guy would ever muster the courage to risk death in combat. Zhang Yi had once made this definitive judgment. Another factor was Zhang Yi's excessive protection of them. He hadn't anticipated this moment, Fatty Su completely isolated. Nor had he foreseen that an unexpected incident would allow Fatty Su's rage to overcome his fear. Driven by his affection and sympathy for the sage, fueled by the resentment born from Lan Malik's humiliation, he erupted for the first time in his life. Liquid nitrogen surged from the armor, rapidly freezing the surrounding air. White ice crystals radiated outward from Fatty Su's right palm pressed against the ground, spreading in every direction. Yet this had no effect whatsoever on Lan Malik and Gawain. Their combat suits were engineered to withstand extreme cold, plummeting temperatures were their least concern. This guy, has he lost his mind? He actually dares to fight both of us at once. For that three-eyed clan? He must be insane. Lan Malik and Gawain hadn't expected Fatty Su to actually attack. In the super-cold state, water vapor in the air rapidly crystallized into ice. This provided Fatty Su with a weapon for combat. Blizzard. A serious expression appeared on Fatty Su's chubby face. A surging storm erupted from around him, carrying the frost from the surrounding air. It howled forward, attacking Gawain and Lan Malik. Lan Malik snorted coldly, stepping forward to shield Gawain. Clang! She drew the western sword at her waist, executed a fencing stance, and lunged toward Fatty Su like lightning. Shining Knight Lan Malik, Enhancement Type Mutant, Mutant Ability Index, 9,500 points. Her sword blurred into a streak, leaving shattered after images in the air. But Fatty Su raised both arms. With a hiss, the armor on his wrists shot out like a bullet, revealing 8 jet nozzles. Liquid nitrogen blasted directly toward her, instantly shrouding the corridor ahead in a white, icy mist. Lan Malik's body froze solid in an instant. She shook violently, shattering the ice and snow covering her body with a loud crash. Fatty Su wasn't about to wear a dog collar and become a prisoner. He glanced down at the corpse of the sage, gritted his teeth, and finally decided to send him back to dust. Liquid nitrogen sprayed over his body, swiftly transforming him into an ice sculpture. Fatty Su blew a breath at him. A frigid current swept through, and his massive frame exploded with a thunderous bang, into a sky filled with ice shards. This was the ice burial, touted as the world's cleanest method of disposing of corpses. He knew he couldn't defeat 2 Knights of the Round Table. No, strictly speaking, even facing the combat-oriented Lan Malik alone, he understood he wasn't a match for him right now. But the courage to flee? That, at least, he possessed now. Compared to the timid, cowardly version of himself who'd only ever shrunk from powerful foes, he now held a measure of bravery. Fatty Su clutched the book the sage had handed him in his final moments. Though the sage hadn't explained its significance, the fact that he'd insisted on carrying it away even in his dying breaths made it clear this was an extraordinarily important tome. Fatty Su, holding the massive book, used the power of his exoskeleton armor to sprint rapidly toward the exit. Gawain gazed at Sage's body, now reduced to ice shards, her brow slightly furrowed. Truthfully, she had harbored some affection for the old scholar. But now that he was dead, there was nothing more to be said. That fatso isn't much of a threat. Forget about him. Lan Malik, however, spoke coldly. He has a book in his hands. One that looks very important. With that, she pointed to her own throat. Gawain sighed, then swiftly dematerialized. She transformed into a transparent liquid that flowed down her neck and vanished inside. Lan Malik immediately gave chase in the direction Fatty Su had fled. 30 seconds later. Fatty Sue stood frozen in place, unable to move, not because he didn't want to, but because a Western sword was pressed against his throat. Another slight push would drive it through the seam of his mech armor and into his windpipe. Even with the mech's protection, the vast disparity in strength had shattered his escape plan. I thought you had some skill, but you're surprisingly weak. I really can't fathom why chaos would bring you here. Lon Malak remarked without a shred of politeness. Fatty Sue stared at the woman before him, her face a mask of mockery and contempt. Deep within, a sense of humiliation began to take root. He started to feel bitter and resentful over his own weakness. It turned out that without Zhang Yi's protection, he was this weak. By now, the tremors within the Divine Spirit Temple had ceased. It was clear this wasn't caused by an earthquake. Yet a profound sense of unease still hung over everyone's hearts. Lon Malak fastened the collar around Fatty Sue's neck and said coldly, "Let's go. I've no time to dawdle here." Over half an hour had passed since their banishment. During this time, they should have swiftly located the main gate's direction. Yet, drawn by the aura of the Source of God fragment and hindered by members of other teams, they squandered precious time. This was precisely the objective of General Babru, the guardian of the main gate. Yet this tactic could not confine them indefinitely. With the aid of a modern intelligence system, even exiled to unfamiliar territory, they could gradually piece together the entire layout of the Divine Spirit Temple. This was achieved by referencing its previously observed architecture and the spatial intelligence gathered along their journey. Though they couldn't grasp the full picture, it was sufficient to guide them steadily toward the main gate. Finally, Zhang Yi and Liang Yu reunited. Seeing her with Mordred as a captive, Zhang Yi didn't dwell on it. He simply remarked, "Now we just need Fatty Sue. Hope that guy's okay." Fatty Sue might be a bit of a pushover, but he was the group's cheerful spirit, and Zhang Yi's regular chat buddy and gaming partner. Zhang Yi had once intended to mentor him, but leaving him alone made Zhang Yi genuinely fear someone might harm him. Just then, Flower sniffed the air, looked up at Zhang Yi, and said, "I think I smell the scent of his body fat." Zhang Yi gazed at the tall, half-open palace gates ahead, slowly narrowing his eyes. "I sensed it too." They walked forward, and once they passed through the gate, they indeed saw Fatty Sue. They also saw the group of Knights of the Round Table. At this moment, members of both factions had gathered here, yet not a single person from the Garuda tribe was in sight. Both sides stared intently at each other, particularly at the prisoners held by the opposing group. Besides Fatty Sue being restrained by two women from the other side, Zhang Yi also spotted Zhangda. As a captain-level mutant, Zhangda had followed Zhang Yi and his group here. Well, now both sides held two prisoners from the other group. It seemed they had both arrived at the same conclusion in certain respects. Lancelot observed Zhang Yi with leisurely composure. What a coincidence. Never imagined we'd meet again in this place. Yet those Garuda fellows have vanished without a trace. Could this be another scheme they've orchestrated? Zhang Yi's eyes flickered, and he quickly replied, "If you were that powerful, why wait until now?" He quickly pieced together the truth, understanding why Gao Changkong and the others weren't present, but saw no need to share this with Lancelot. He released Mordred and Galahad from the shadow space. "Exchange prisoners. I don't like wasting time," Zhang Yi stated coolly. Lancelot waved dismissively with a cold laugh. "Perfect timing. We have an equal number of prisoners." Without further ado, both sides efficiently administered antidotes to their captives, removed the self-destruct collars from their necks, and exchanged prisoners. Fatty Sue stared at Zhang Yi with a guilty, stifled expression, but Zhang Yi showed no sign of resentment. Given Fatty Sue's abilities, his survival here was entirely due to the Knights of the Round Table's reservations about him. After the hostage exchange concluded, Lancelot addressed Zhang Yi. "Don't you find this situation a bit too coincidental?" Zhang Yi replied, "I've been thinking the same. Tell me your thoughts." There are no such things as coincidences in this world, only inevitability and deliberate human actions. If their two teams happen to cross paths by chance, that might be understandable. But their frequent encounters, the ensuing battles, and now meeting here, that was no coincidence. the absence of Gao Changkong and his group only reinforced Zhang Yi's suspicions. He held his tongue, choosing instead to seek Lancelot's perspective. After a moment's silence, Lancelot spoke. When we entered the palace, that gatekeeper possessed either a space ability or a rules category ability. He banished us into this vast palace. It seemed random, but in reality, he controlled the mechanics of this space, forcing us into contact. Then, using divine source, he compelled us to fight. Though I don't know why, the Garuda tribe isn't here. But if they were, they would undoubtedly face the same situation as us. He looked at Zhang Yi and smiled faintly. He's making us slaughter each other to drain our strength. Spreading his arms, he said casually, that's good news, isn't it? It means they aren't powerful enough to crush us outright. Zhang Yi nodded. I agree. But there's one rather troubling aspect. Zhang Yi opened the terrain map of the Divine Spirit Temple generated by his intelligence system and shook his head helplessly. If he can manipulate the space here to deliberately force us into contact, then the map we currently have is fake. How are we supposed to get out of here then? The Divine Spirit Temple was too vast, constructed from barrier stones. They couldn't violently destroy the walls to escape. If the enemy could also freely manipulate the space here, they'd be like mice toyed within a maze, potentially never escaping or finding a way to the upper levels of the Divine Spirit Temple. Fatty Su stood behind Zhang Yi, stealing a glance at Gawain, his face betraying a desire to speak but holding back. Zhang Yi, oblivious to Fatty Su's expression, continued conversing with Lancelot. Lancelot spoke up, an exit must exist. We can at least remember the rooms we each passed through. Given that, let's split up and begin exploring. As long as we don't fight amongst ourselves, we'll avoid a lot of trouble. Zhang Yi couldn't think of a better solution. Until he understood Babru's abilities, the only way forward was the most straightforward one. Alright, let's do it that way. Zhang Yi was about to leave to search for the exit. Just then, Fatty Su grabbed his sleeve. Boss. Zhang Yi shot Fatty Su a surprised glance. The man looked hesitant, his face etched with anxiety, his eyes darting toward the members of the Knights of the Round Table. Zhang Yi followed his gaze and saw two female knights. Behind them, they carried ancient books as tall as a person. What's wrong? Fatty Su pointed at the book on Lan Malik's back and said, that book is mine. It's important, they can't take it. The book? The book was enormous. Although Zhang Yi had noticed it, he hadn't paid much attention at first. Fatty Su quickly explained his previous experience. Long story short, it's the lifetime notes of an old scholar from here. It might just contain the ancient civilization data you're after. Hearing this, Zhang Yi's expression instantly turned serious. His original reason for coming to the snowy plateau was precisely to seek out these ancient texts. His goal was to uncover the truth about the underworld gatekeepers of Star Island and the Serpentine tribe dwelling beneath the Qinling Mountains. This knowledge would prepare him for potential future threats. If the ancient epic of King Geezer could move him, imagine the impact of documents from the even older civilization of Nash Kingdom. Wait! Zhang Yi called out to the Knights of the Round Table who were about to leave. Lancelot and the others turned back, frowning at Zhang Yi. What is it? Is there something else? Zhang Yi pointed at Lan Malik. She seems to have taken something belonging to my friend. I need her to return it. Hearing this, Lan Malik's hand immediately gripped the western sword at her waist while she shifted her body to shield the book. They weren't fools, they understood the book's significance too. Without a space ability mutant, they couldn't carry the entire Nash Royal Library. They had to find the most precious document to bring back. These notes, the culmination of the sage's life's work, were a priceless treasure more valuable to them than the source of God. Gawain spoke calmly at this moment, addressing Zhang Yi. This book was acquired from the Three-Eyed Clan. I'm not sure when it became his possession. Fatty Su pointed at Gawain in agitation. You guys killed the sage. He handed it to me before dying. Gawain neither confirmed nor denied the claim, but remained silent. They would never hand it over. Lancelot glanced at Fatty Su, then addressed Zhang Yi. an ownerless item belongs to whoever finds it. At a time like this, surely you wouldn't want to quarrel with us over a book? Zhang Yi also glanced at Fatty Sue. He was somewhat surprised, for it had been a long time since he'd seen Fatty Sue display such intense emotion over an object. That notebook contained the lifetime's work of the sage, an invaluable treasure. Zhang Yi looked at Lancelot and stated, "You seized this item from my people, so you must return it." Those who knew Zhang Yi understood he never sought trouble, but he certainly didn't fear it. Thus, as he spoke these words, he was already prepared to engage the Knights of the Round Table in battle. Lancelot frowned, his gaze turning icy as he fixed it on Zhang Yi. At a time like this, are you truly certain you wish to go to war with me? They were currently within the Three-Eyed Clan's territory, where they could face attacks from the clan's powerful warriors at any moment. Engaging in internal conflict now was absolutely not the most rational choice. But Lancelot didn't understand Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi smiled, a carefree grin spreading across his face. At a time like this? What time is it now? My apologies, but if you don't want to fight me, then hand it back. My purpose in coming here is simply to obtain everything I desire. So whether my opponent is human or the Three-Eyed Clan, it makes no difference to me. Whoever stands in my way will be eliminated. He hadn't come here for any grand cause of the human race, because that held no meaning anymore. What could now be confirmed was that the Three-Eyed Clan wasn't as powerful as White Dragon's clan. Even if this tribe emerged from underground, their backward civilization wouldn't pose a disruptive threat to human society. All carbon-based lifeforms are equal before the Grim Reaper of Love. On the Knights of the Round Table's side, each member's expression grew solemn and cold. Yet their faces showed no trace of fear. The disparity in strength was starkly evident. On Zhang Yi's side, only Liang Yu appeared to be a relatively powerful mutant. Uncle Yu and Fatty Sue, bolstered by their mecha, could reach a level of 9,000 plus, but their actual combat effectiveness was only mid to low tier. Yet every member of the Round Table Knights was an elite fighter. Zhang Yi smiled without comment, reaching up to stroke Flower on his shoulder. He never fought battles he wasn't certain of winning. If he didn't possess absolute confidence in his strength, he wouldn't be so brazen. The presence of two epsilons alone guaranteed they held an overwhelming advantage in this fight. This fact remained unknown to the Knights of the Round Table. Lancelot fixed his gaze on Zhang Yi, the corners of his mouth curling slightly to reveal his wolf-like, pearly white teeth. "It seems you're determined to fight us." Zhang Yi replied coldly, "I've said it before, no one bullies my people. And no one takes what I desire." Lancelot sneered inwardly. His ability index was indeed only 18,000 points, matching Zhang Yi's. But Zhang Yi didn't know that with the support of the Green Knight, Bowser, and the Pure Knight, Gawain, his ability index could instantly surge past 20,000 points. His supernatural ability, Sword and Shield, relied on the true sword, the sword in the tree, Bowser, and the purified water, Gawain, which could heal any wound. Among the mutants, when abilities complement each other, they can unleash power at an exponential level. Even a Delta-level mutant could provide immense assistance to an Epsilon. Just as Yang Xinxin's intellect and her Angel of Desire had repeatedly offered Zhang Yi support rivaling that of an Epsilon-level mutant. Both men held unwavering conviction that victory would be theirs once hostilities commenced. Moreover, neither was willing to relinquish the vital documents left behind by the sage. Thus, this battle was utterly unavoidable. In truth, should Zhang Yi choose to fight, Lancelot possessed no means to refuse. He could gather everyone into the shadow space, then pursue the entire Round Table Knights with his sniper rifle. Even if Lancelot himself remained unfazed, his entire squad would be annihilated. Lancelot stepped forward, smiling as he addressed Zhang Yi, "Our objective isn't mutual destruction. At this juncture, a life-or-death struggle benefits no one. Therefore, I propose a gentlemanly duel between us. We'll stop at the first sign of injury. The loser forfeits any claim to the Three-Eyed Clan's notebook. What do you say? Stop at the first sign of injury?" It wouldn't be that simple, but Zhang Yi glanced at Flower on his shoulder and agreed to Lancelot's proposal. The advantage is mine. Both men thought this to themselves. They chose a vast conference hall as the dueling ground, a space where 2 Epsilon-level mutant could unleash their full power. The others were instructed to watch from outside, under strict orders not to interfere with their duel. But what was the reality? Lancelot had already discreetly brought along Bowser and Gawain. As for Zhang Yi, needless to say, everyone was within his dimensional space. His top lieutenant, Flower, had begun sharpening its claws against Zhang Yi's armor. A gentleman's duel? A gentleman only on the surface. Zhang Yi and Lancelot entered the palace through its front and rear doors respectively. Without a word, both instinctively reached out to lock the doors behind them. Though separated by hundreds of meters, a mere blink of an eye for them. The moment the door latch clicked shut, without warning, Flower leapt from Zhang Yi's shoulder, swelling in the wind and transforming into a colossal beast hurtling straight toward Lancelot. Zhang Yi spun around, both hands gripping twin white eagles. Dark void energy surged through the holy silver bullet, erupting toward Lancelot like a sudden downpour. Lancelot wasn't caught off guard by Zhang Yi's sudden assault, he too was prepared for battle. A protective shield instantly materialized in his left hand, while a vine coiled down his right arm, swiftly morphing into a massive, oddly shaped green sword. Boom! Facing Flower's instant charge, Lancelot's sword in the tree erupted into a forest of blades, blocking Flower's path.